Close your eyes for a moment. I want you to feel the space around your body. I want you to sense the frequency of the room. Most of you are waking up every single morning, and the first thing you do is reach for your past. You reaffirm who you think you are by revisiting the same problems, the same people, and the same limitations. You are living in a predictable future based entirely on a familiar past. But if you want to break free, not just for a day, but permanently, you have to become someone else. You have to leave the old self behind at the altar of your own transformation. You are not your beliefs, you are the consciousness that creates them. Time to stop being a prisoner of your biology and start being the creator of your biography. To truly understand why you feel stuck, you must first confront the sobering reality that most of your life is being lived by a ghost. Time you reach your mid-30s, you have repeated the same thoughts, practiced the same reactions, and memorized the same emotional states so many times that they have become a subconscious set of programs. You are essentially a biological computer running a series of loops. When you wake up in the morning, your brain immediately begins to search for a familiar sense of self. You look for your problems, you think about your chores, and you recall your failures. Each one of these thoughts has an emotional charge, and as you tap into those emotions, you signal your body to feel exactly the way it did yesterday. This is the birth of a limiting belief. It is not just a passing idea, a neurological habit that has been hardwired into your architecture through years of repetition. You must realize that your brain is a record of the past. It is an artifact of everything you have learned and experienced up until this moment. Therefore, if you wake up and start your day by thinking about your problems, you are thinking in the past. If those problems are linked to certain people or certain places, your brain is immediately activating the neural networks associated with those memories. Your body is the objective mind. It does not know the difference between a real life experience and an emotion you are creating by thought alone. To the body, the event is happening right now. You are literally marinating your cells in the chemistry of your history. This creates a feedback loop. The mind thinks a thought, the body produces a chemical, the body feels an emotion, and the mind then thinks more thoughts equal to how it feels. Over time, loop creates a state of being. You begin to say things like, I am an anxious person, or I am not good with money, not realizing that these aren't truths. They are simply programs you have practiced until they became effortless. Free from these limiting beliefs permanently, you must first become the observer of this programming. Most people are so busy being the program that they never stop to witness it. You must develop the metacognitive ability to stand outside of your own mind. You have to become so conscious of your unconscious thoughts that you wouldn't let a single limitation pass by your awareness unnoticed. Think about it. How many times a day do you have a thought that says, I can't? That's too hard. Or I'll never change. Each time the thought goes unchecked, you are reinforcing the hardware. But the moment you notice the thought, you are no longer the thought itself. You are the consciousness witnessing the thought. This is the first step toward liberation. You are pulling energy out of the past and into the present moment. You are beginning to objectify your subjective reality. The struggle many face is that they try to change their life while staying the same person. They want a new result. They are still operating from the same personality, but your personality creates your personal reality.
Yeah.
If you want to change your personal reality, you have to fundamentally change your personality. This means you have to look at the way you speak, the way you act, and the way you think with a level of scrutiny that is almost uncomfortable. You have to ask yourself if the thoughts you are thinking are even yours, or if they are just echoes of your parents, your culture, or your past traumas. what you believe to be true about yourself is actually just a collection of opinions you've inherited. By recognizing the programmed mind, you start to see that the walls holding you back are actually just thin veils of neural circuitry. You begin to understand that you are not a victim of your biology or your past, but a creator who has been asleep at the wheel. To wake up is to realize that the program only has power over you as long as you remain unconscious of its existence. You shine the light of awareness on these subconscious patterns. The hardwiring begins to loosen, and for the first time in your life, you have the space to choose a different thought, a different action, and a different destiny. When you decide to step away from your familiar life and challenge the boundaries of your limiting beliefs, you inevitably arrive at the edge of what I call the river of change. This is the transition point between your old self and your new self. It is the most critical stage of your evolution. To cross this river means you must be willing to leave behind the safety of the known. Most people spend their entire lives on the familiar shore, clinging to their suffering, their self-doubt, and their limitations, because even though those things are painful, they are at least predictable. You know exactly how it feels to be unworthy. You know exactly how it feels to be a victim. There is a strange, perverse comfort in that certainty. But the moment you decide to think differently, to act differently, or to feel differently, you are essentially stepping off the ledge into the unknown. This is where the body begins to rebel. The body, which has been the mind for so long, starts to send frantic signals back to the brain. It says, "You're doing it wrong," or "This doesn't feel right," or "It's too hard. Let's go back to being miserable because at least we knew how to handle that." Most people don't realize is that this feeling of wrongness, this intense discomfort and anxiety, is actually the sound of the old self dying. You are breaking the chemical addiction to the past. If you have spent 20 years being a person who complains or feels insecure, you have literally conditioned your body to crave the chemicals of stress associated with those states. When you stop providing those chemicals, the body goes through a withdrawal process, starts to protest. So it tries to talk you out of your greatness by telling you that you aren't ready, that you don't have enough money, or that you're not smart enough. If you listen to those thoughts and believe them to be true, you will turn around and run back to the shore of the old self. You will find yourself right back in the same environment with the same people, doing the same things to make that uncomfortable feeling go away. If you can understand that the discomfort is the signature of transformation, you can learn to stay in the gap. You have to be willing to be in the void where nothing is certain and nothing is predictable. It is only in the vacuum of the unknown that new possibilities can actually exist. If you are always living in the known, there is no room for a new future. There is only a repetition of the past. To cross the river of change permanently, become more in love with your vision of the future than you are with the memory of your past. You have to sit in that fire of transformation and stay there until the old neurological connections have withered away. Requires a level of willpower and awareness that most people never cultivate. You have to be the master of your body instead of its servant. When the body starts to crave its familiar dose of guilt or fear, you have to settle it down like a trained animal and tell it that you are the one in charge. You are teaching the body to follow the mind into a new territory. This is why the unknown is the only place where you can create. In the unknown, you are no longer defined by your name, your job, your past failures, or your bank account. You are pure consciousness. You are a field of infinite potential. When you finally stop looking back at the shore you left behind, you start to see that the river isn't trying to drown you. It is trying to wash away the layers of who you thought you were so that who you truly are can finally emerge. You must realize that the very thing you are afraid of, the uncertainty, is actually the doorway to your freedom. It is the only place where the laws of the past no longer apply and where the new laws of your future can begin to take root in your biology and your spirit. To break free from the shackles of a limited life, understand that your brain does not know the difference between an actual experience in your physical reality and an experience you create through the power of thought and emotion alone. This is the science of mental rehearsal. Is the key to installing the neurological hardware of your future before that future has even manifested. Most people are waiting for their wealth to feel abundant, waiting for their success to feel empowered, or waiting for their healing to feel whole. They are living in a state of cause and effect where they believe something outside of them has to change how they feel inside. But if you want to become the architect of your destiny, you have to reverse that process. You have to learn how to change your internal state regardless of the external conditions of your environment. When you sit down and truly begin to rehearse a new reality, you are doing more than just daydreaming. You are intentionally selecting a new possibility from the quantum field and beginning to inhabit it. You must close your eyes and ask yourself, what would it feel like to be the person I want to be? How would that person walk? How would they breathe? How would they speak to others? As you begin to mentally rehearse these actions and behaviors, your brain starts to fire in new sequences and new patterns. You are literally beginning to rewire your frontal lobe. If you do this with enough focus and intensity, the brain begins to look like the experience has already happened. You are priming your nervous system to be the person of your future rather than the victim of your past. But the rehearsal is not just a cognitive exercise, it must be an emotional one. You cannot just think the thought of being successful while your body is still feeling the familiar contraction of lack. You must marry a clear intention with an elevated emotion. You have to teach your body emotionally what that future feels like before it happens. Means you must feel the gratitude, the freedom, and the joy of your new life in the present moment. When you do this, you are sending a signal to your genes. You are signaling new genes in new ways, and your body begins to change to match your mind. You are essentially moving from a state of being someone to becoming no one, no thing, and nowhere at no time, which is the moment you enter the field of all possibilities. The beauty of this practice is the more you rehearse this new version of yourself, the more it becomes your natural state of being. Eventually, the hardware you have installed becomes a software program that runs automatically. You start to notice that you are no longer reacting to the same triggers in your environment. You start to notice that you are making different choices and seeing new opportunities that were previously invisible to you. This is because you have changed your internal filters. You are no longer looking at the world through the lens of your past limitations. You are looking at it through the lens of your new potential. You have to be so focused on this internal rehearsal that you lose track of time and space. When you open your eyes after such a session, the physical world should feel slightly less real than the world you just created inside your mind. That is the moment you know you have made a real change in your biology. You are no longer waiting for your life to change so you can feel great. You feel great, and therefore your life must change to match your internal state. You are no longer a victim of your circumstances. You are the creator of your reality. You are becoming the person who is worthy of the dreams you have held in your heart. This is not a matter of hope or wishful thinking, a matter of neurological and biological fact. By consistently rehearsing the new self, you are literally out thinking your environment and out thinking your body, paving a golden path toward a permanent state of liberation that no external force can take away from you. To break free from the invisible chains of your past, you must understand the physics of your own energy. People are trying to create a new life while staying chemically bonded to their old one. You cannot create a future of abundance, health, or freedom while your body is vibrating at the frequency of guilt, judgment, or unworthiness. Are not just abstract feelings, they are physiological states that produce a specific electromagnetic signature. Every time you have a thought, you make a chemical. If you have a limiting thought, a chemical that makes you feel exactly how you were just thinking. The moment you feel the way you think, you begin to think the way you feel. And this cycle creates a state of being that is stuck in a low frequency loop. To change your life, you have to change your energy. You have to learn how to elevate your emotional frequency to a level that is equal to the future you desire. This requires you to intentionally cultivate what I call elevated emotions. Emotions like gratitude, inspiration, joy, love of life itself. Most people believe they need a reason to feel joy. They think once I get the job, I'll feel empowered, or once I find the relationship, I'll feel loved. This is the old model of reality, a Newtonian model of cause and effect where we wait for something outside of us to change how we feel inside. But the quantum model of reality demands that you feel the emotion of the event before it occurs. You have to teach your body emotionally what your future feels like while you are still sitting in your current reality. When you do this, you are no longer a victim to your environment. You are the master of your destiny. Gratitude is perhaps the most powerful of these elevated states. In its simplest form, gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. When you are grateful, you are signaling to every cell in your body and to the quantum field that the event you are grateful for has already happened. You cannot be grateful for something that hasn't occurred yet unless you are living in a state of absolute conviction. Therefore, when you open your heart and feel the frequency of gratitude, your body literally believes it is in the future you have envisioned. By sustaining these elevated emotions, you begin to break the chemical addiction to the stress hormones that have kept you small. Hormones of stress like cortisol and adrenaline are designed for survival. They narrow your focus, drain your energy, and keep you in a state of emergency. When you live in survival, you are always waiting for the other shoe to drop. You are constantly scanning your environment for what is wrong. This creates a highly incoherent energy. But when you move into elevated emotions, you begin to create heart coherence. Your heart starts to beat in a rhythmic, orderly fashion, sending a signal to the brain that it is safe to create, safe to dream, and safe to heal. This coherence creates a magnetic field that can extend several feet beyond your body. You are no longer just a physical body trying to push matter around in space. You are a vortex of energy that is drawing your new life to you. You become a magnet for miracles. This is how you break free permanently. You don't do it by fighting the old. You do it by becoming so enamored with the new frequency that the old one simply loses its grip on you. You must become so skilled at raising your frequency that you can do it regardless of the traffic, regardless of the news, regardless of the people in your life who want you to stay the same. You are reclaiming your power from the external world and placing it back where it belongs within the sanctuary of your own heart and mind. As you broadcast this new signature into the field, the universe has no choice but to respond to the energy you are emitting. You are not just changing your mind, you are changing your very substance, turning the lead of your past into the gold of a new, frequency existence that reflects the true magnitude of your potential. To step into a new destiny, you must confront the reality that most of your current identity is built upon an addiction to the past. This is not a metaphor, it is a physiological fact. When you experience a stressful event, your brain produces a rush of chemicals that sharpen your senses and prepare you for survival. Over time, you begin to rely on those chemicals, the adrenaline, the cortisol, the rush of anger, or the heavy weight of sorrow. Feel alive. You use the problems in your life to reaffirm your limitation and to provide an emotional charge that validates your existence. If you are not feeling your familiar pain, your familiar anxiety, or your familiar unworthiness, you don't know who you are. This is the addiction to the old self. To break free permanently, you have to stop using your past to fuel your present. You have to decide that you are no longer going to let your body be the master of your mind. Every time you catch yourself rehearsing a grievance or dwelling on a failure, you are essentially reaching for a hit of that old chemical state. You are feeding the old personality, and as long as you feed it, it will remain alive and dominant. Breaking this addiction requires a ruthless level of self-honesty. You have to look at your life and realize that your excuses are actually just symptoms of your emotional attachment to the past. When you say you can't do something because of what happened to you 10 years ago, you are admitting that you are still living in that 10-year-old moment. You are giving your power away to a memory. To reclaim that power, you must starve the old self. You must consciously choose to hold the emotional fuel that keeps those old neural pathways active. This process is often uncomfortable because the body has been conditioned to be the mind. When you stop complaining, stop judging, and stop playing the victim, the body begins to protest. It starts to send messages to the brain, trying to lure you back into the familiar territory of suffering. It tells you that change is impossible or that you aren't worthy of a better life. This is the moment of truth. If you give in to those feelings, you are reinforcing the addiction, but if you can stay present, if you can settle the body back down into the moment and refuse to engage with the old emotional narrative, the addiction begins to break. You are teaching the body that it is no longer the leader, the spirit is the leader. You have to be more in love with your vision of the future than you are with the familiar comfort of your misery. Would rather be miserable and certain than take a chance on being happy in the unknown. But to truly evolve, you must be willing to let the old version of you die. You must stop identifying with your limitations and start identifying with your potential. Means you stop telling the story of your past to everyone you meet. You stop using your history as a shield against the demands of growth. When you break the addiction to the past, free up a tremendous amount of energy that was previously tied up in survival. That energy is now available for you to use for creation. You begin to feel a sense of lightness and clarity because you are no longer carrying the heavy baggage of who you used to be. You are no longer defined by your wounds. You are defined by your possibilities. This is the path to permanent freedom. It requires you to be vigilant every single day, to watch your thoughts like a hawk. Refuse to allow the body to return to its old chemical habits. You are essentially undergoing a biological renovation, tearing down the old structures of self-doubt and building a new foundation of empowerment. As the old addiction fades, you find that you no longer need the external world to provide you with a sense of self. You become self-referencing, drawing your worth and your joy from the internal wellspring of your own consciousness. Finally, standing as the sovereign creator of a life that is no longer a shadow of what came before. To achieve a permanent breakthrough in your life, you must master the art of biological and energetic alignment. which is the marriage of a clear intention with an elevated emotion. This is what we call the coherence of heart and mind. Most people live their lives in a state of internal fragmentation. Their brain is saying one thing, their body is feeling something entirely different. They are thinking about wealth, but they are feeling the internal contraction of lack. They are thinking about health, but they are feeling the heavy burden of sickness. When the mind and the body are at odds, you are sending a mixed signal into the quantum field, and as a result, you get a mixed or stagnant life. You are essentially trying to drive a car with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. To break free, you must synchronize these two powerhouses of your biology. Your brain is the electrical station. It sends the thought, the intention, and the vision out into the field. Your heart is the magnetic station, the center of your feeling and your emotional frequency, and it is what draws the experience back to you. When you align these two, you create a powerful electromagnetic signature that functions like a beacon, signaling a new destiny to come to you. Intention is the directive. It is the clarity of what you want to experience. But intention alone is not enough. You can have the clearest vision in the world, but if it is not fueled by an elevated emotion, it has no power to manifest. Like having a sophisticated computer with no electricity, the emotion is the fuel. It is the energy that launches the thought into the void. When you bring your heart into a state of coherence, meaning you are feeling gratitude, compassion, or freedom before the event has occurred, you are creating a rhythmic, orderly wave of energy. This heart coherence actually entrains the brain. It sends a signal to the cranial centers that everything is right in your world, allowing the nervous system to shift out of the survival mode of fight or flight and into the creative mode of rest and repair. In this state, you are no longer limited by the analytical mind that says your dreams are impossible. Instead, you are operating from a place of knowing. You are no longer chasing your future. You are attracting it. You become a vortex of potential because your internal state is now greater than the external conditions of your life. You are no longer a victim of the environment. You are the master of your energy. This alignment requires a radical shift in how you perceive time and space. In the old way of living, taught to wait for the evidence of your senses to tell you that you are successful or loved. But the quantum reality requires you to become the evidence. Embody the frequency of the new life so completely that your body actually believes the future has already arrived. When the heart and mind are in coherence, you are no longer separate from your dreams. You are no longer looking at your goals as something there that you have to work hard to find. Instead, you feel so whole and so fulfilled by your own internal alignment that you no longer need the thing to happen to feel the joy of it. And ironically, that is exactly when the thing happens. The universe only responds to who you are being, not what you are wanting. If you are wanting something, you are signaling to the field that you do not have it. Field will simply return more of that state of wanting to you. But when you are being the frequency of your vision, you are signaling having, and the field must manifest that reality to match your signature. This is not a philosophy, a law of physics. By training yourself to maintain this state of coherence throughout the day, you begin to close the gap between your current self and your future self. You become a creator who operates with precision, moving through the world with a quiet confidence because you have already won the battle within. You have mastered the relationship between your thoughts and your feelings, and in doing so, you have unlocked the door to a life where miracles are no longer accidents, natural and predictable results of your own energetic evolution, the final and perhaps most profound realization in the journey of permanent transformation is that your entire power is concentrated in the absolute mastery of the present moment. Humanity is suffering from a massive leakage of energy. People are either bleeding their vitality into the predictable future, worrying about what might go wrong, rehearsing their anxieties, and anticipating the same stresses, or they are anchoring their energy in the familiar past, replaying old traumas, nursing ancient grievances, and identifying with who they used to be. When your attention is divided between the then and the soon, you have zero energy left to create a now. You must understand that where you place your attention is where you place your energy. If your attention is perpetually fixed on your past or your future, you are essentially bankrupt in the present. To break free from limiting beliefs permanently, you must learn to call your energy back from all those places in time and space where it has been scattered. You must become the master of the eternal now is the only place where the quantum field is accessible. This is the only place where you can actually plant the seeds of a new destiny. Mastering the present moment requires you to be more than just a passive inhabitant of your body, requires you to be a vigilant guardian of your consciousness. When you sit down to create or to meditate, and your mind starts to wander to your emails, your phone, or the person who upset you yesterday, you have to realize that your body is trying to drag you back into the known. It wants to go back to the familiar chemical state of your old life. Every time you notice your mind has wandered and you consciously bring your attention back to the present moment, you are making monumental change in your biology. You are telling your body that it is no longer the mind, that you are the mind. You are executing an act of will that overcomes years of conditioning. Process of settling the body down and returning to the center is what builds the muscle of true consciousness. It is the practice of becoming no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time. In that sweet spot of the generous present moment, the baggage of your identity. You are no longer the mother, the father, the employee, or the person with a specific bank account. You are pure awareness, and in that state of pure awareness, the laws of Newtonian physics, the laws of cause and effect, begin to give way to the laws of quantum possibility. You must understand that the present moment is the only place where the limiting belief does not exist. A belief is just a thought you keep thinking, usually rooted in a past experience. If you can truly habit the now, you are no longer the person who was hurt. You are no longer the person who failed. And you are no longer the person who is afraid. You are a blank slate. People find this terrifying because they have spent their whole lives being somebody, even if that somebody is miserable. But the void of the present moment is not empty. It is full of frequency and information. When you master the now, you start to perceive the world not through the lens of your survival instincts, but through the lens of your creative potential. You start to see that time as not a linear line you are trapped on, but a vertical column of opportunity. By staying in the present, you stop the leak of your creative power. You begin to accumulate the energy necessary to make a permanent leap in your evolution. You start to live your life from a state of being the world, but not of it. You are no longer a victim of the news, the economy, because you have found a source of power that is internal and independent of external circumstances. This is the ultimate sovereignty. It is the ability to stand in the middle of a storm and remains perfectly still, perfectly coherent, perfectly aligned with your vision. You are no longer waiting for the world to give you permission to be happy. You are generating that happiness from the depths of your own being, right here and right now. This mastery is not a destination you reach, state of being you inhabit with every breath, a continuous choosing of the unknown over the known, until the person you were is nothing more than a distant memory and the person you are becoming is the only reality that remains, has arrived for you to decide who you are going to be when you open your eyes and step back into your life. You have been given the blueprint to deconstruct the old self and the tools to architect a new reality from the level of energy and frequency. Transformation you seek is not a gift bestowed upon you by some external force. It is a biological and neurological inevitability that occurs when you finally choose to stop being a victim of your past and start being the creator of your future. You are no longer bound by the chains of your conditioning or the limitations of your biology unless you choose to return to them. The river has been crossed, the new hardware is installed, and your heart and mind are finally speaking the same language. Do not look back at the shore of the old self with longing or regret. That version of you has served its purpose, but it can no longer go where you are headed. You are now a pioneer of your own consciousness, walking into a future that is no longer a repetition of what has been, but a manifestation of what is possible. Go forth with the absolute conviction that your internal state is the primary cause of your external reality. Live as if your prayers have already been answered. Walk as if your healing is already complete, and breathe as if you are already the person you once only dreamed of becoming. You have reclaimed your power from the unknown, and in doing so, you have claimed your seat as the sovereign architect of your destiny.